Right, tonight's the test. Do you have any questions you want to ask me about the test? No. Sorry, Justin, what did you say? What is important? It's important to be an honest and decent person. What's important for the test? Oh, honesty and decency. Yes, Lauren. Well, what define good? If you pass the mock tests, then it doesn't mean anything. I'm not going to say that the test is going to be more or less difficult than the mock test. The idea is that when I said the test, any test, I always test for 3 kinds of people. Or, make 3 kinds of questions, let's say that. Questions I think almost everybody will pass, so a test of very basic knowledge. Questions that I think half the class will pass and half will fail. So that kind of checks if you know a little more than the basics, but not much more, but you can apply the basics. And tests or questions that I think many people will fail. Not all, not most, but many, maybe more than half, which kind of pushes to the boundaries and tries to make you think a little bit, or has a little trick to them, something like that. Do you really know what's going on? Do you really understand this is at a deep level? It is not so that only people who could program before can pass those difficult questions. I'm not asking it for those people. I'm asking it for everybody to see if you really have a deep understanding of what the work is about. Anything else about the test you want to... Sorry, I wanted to add one more thing. The mock tests are there because in previous years, when students arrived at the first test, there were some who passed out or started screaming hysterically. I couldn't stop them. So the idea of the mock test is just to acclimatize you to the idea of how the test will work. I mean, it's also to give you an idea of what you should know, but it's just so I don't get those kind of complaints. Yes, Andrew? Brian. No, not Brian. B. That's Brian. What's your name? What? AJ. AJ. Oh, yeah. Yes, AJ. Maybe. It depends on what you mean by theory. Het hang af van wat jy bedoel. But van theorie. Maar moet nie nou die onderwerp verander nie, geef my 'n theorie vraag. Wel, geen van die mock toetse moes jy code nie. Dit het gevra of jy konsepte verstaan soos hoe werk 'n for loop of hoe werk 'n while loop. How does a while loop work? How does a for loop work? That's what those tests were testing. If you can read the code and run through it in your mind. So I'm really testing the concept, your idea, your knowledge of the concepts of programming. Writing code is a little different because firstly you have to solve a problem. It's not just writing the code. You can know Java perfectly, but you still can't code. We have many students who pass the kind of questions where they have to read and understand code, but then when they have to write code, they can't do that at all. And that's because they can't solve a problem, and they don't know how to connect those 2 activities, writing code and solving problems. So we need to have both kinds of questions, and I won't ask theory questions such as, give the year and date that the term Java was introduced into the English language vernacular as a term for coffee and for programming language, respectively. Or something like, what are the social, political implications of Java's impact on the working class man? Discuss. Or a question like, why? Discuss. Write 5 pages. Okay. So not that kind of theory, but yeah. Look, I don't care what you know. I don't even care if you pass. Well, I don't care if you pass. You can fail this course. But if I can teach you to program, then I've reached my goal. So that's all we want to do in this course, or I want to do in this course. Other people have other agendas. Oakley dokley, anything you want to ask me about the TAT of yesterday? Who attended the TAT? There are so few of you here. But all of you attended the TAT. That's beautiful. How did it go? Who completed all the questions? That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Who completed all the questions correctly? Some. Okay, fine. Marco, failed? Yeah. That's fine. Yes. Oh, I see. Yes. In the email, they said, yes. Who are these they and what email are we talking about? Are you talking about the announcement on the course on Sunderland? Yes. I sent that, yes. In fact, my name was attached to it, so yes. What did I say in the email? I can't recall.
The test will cover the work up until the 9th of March, and I looked at the schedule and it said we do up until page 104. But so like, does it usually TV arrays or not? Because TV arrays only start on page 106.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me just log in. Mistyped. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, fine. I can't log in now. That's fine. But so I can't check what they said in the email, but this includes arrays. 2D emails. Here we go. I can read it here on this student's computer. First is up until 9th of March. And what does the 9th of March give on the schedule? Could you show me that? Schedule. No, ooh, hang on. Just one sec. We are establishing the schedule. 9th of March, 2D arrays. It says read until page 104. Does 104 not cover 2D arrays? Oh. It's fine, I believe you. But we will cover 2D arrays. Because we did discuss them in class, in fact. Or did we? Well, we've got YouTube. We can check. But let's pretend we did. There are 2D arrays in the test, as there were in the mock tests, I guess. Rightio. Anything else you want to ask me about the test or the TAT? Yes? Andrew? Brian? Ian? James? Kate? Caleb. Yes, Caleb. Yes. So Caleb is not Cullum. Where's Cullum? Why do you look so confused when I say your name? You're not used to hearing it. Caleb and Cullum. Good. Got it? Yes, Caleb.
The student venues on the announcement. Do we go to, do we have a specific venue we have to go to, like based on our surname?
I hadn't thought of that. I have in the past. I don't know. I've forgotten. I'll post the venues this morning. I'll assign them. In fact, I'll even assign seats. Or maybe not. Do I have seat? I don't know if those places have seat numbers. But very good point. We'll shuffle you during the lecture, so when you arrive, because I don't want pals sitting next to each other and that kind of stuff. So you must also indicate who you are friends with. Yes. Since I don't have access to, since I'm too lazy to organize access to the that now, I'm not going to be able to show you. But it said you should use a scanner to read input. And last week's stud, do you remember? It started with are you Tuesday or your Thursdays? Last week we started, Justin, hang on. You will have to shut up in this class because your voice is at the wrong frequency. I can hear everything you're saying and thinking. Keegan, I can just hear your thoughts, and I prefer you to shut up with those. Last week we had our very first program asked you to write, or question 0 asked you to write something called read input. That asked you to use scanner to do input. I assumed that you'd recall, I did this last week, and I'll be using that. Did you?
I did.
You didn't?
I did.
You did, yes?
This week's tutorial, but I didn't quite understand it.
You didn't quite understand it. Do I want to work through it? Very briefly, because we want to do something else. This is the program we had to write last week. We're using the scanner to read input from the console, and there are really only 3 things we need to know. Firstly, we have to add this line. Justin, I can hear you think. That is a nasty thought. He does not have a fat ass. I can't believe it. Okay. You have to include this line. Import something scanner. We have to write this one line that says make a new scanner variable. It's a type, it's a box. It's just a box that contains a capital scanner, and the box's name is small s scanner. And then the third thing is that if you want to read an integer, you write scanner.nextInt. If you want to read a double, you write scanner.nextDouble. If you want to read a string, you write scanner.next. And yesterday's touch showed you how to read 1 character at a time. Have I answered your question? Are you happy-ish? Okay, good, excellent. Yes, Justin, you also will find happiness. I heard what you thought. Okay, right. Okay, let's talk. Say again. Maybe. It's a little tricky because it's just the way I ask the questions. It's tricky to say what happens if you run the program with these command line parameters and then you type the following stuff at the console. So I tend to ask questions about programs that are not that interactive. Not always, but at least this early. And the same thing when you're writing those quiz-like questions. When you have to write Java code, you'll notice that almost always they pass command line arguments. So there's a question that asks you to, the very simplest, take a command line parameter that's an integer and calculate the integer plus 1. So the inputs usually come from the command line, and there's already code that asks you to write it out. So yeah, scanner not always. They don't usually feature in the tests. And this is not stuff you need to know. I'm not asking you to memorize this. I mean, in the touch, you can always look at last week's stuff. Oakley dokley. Let's talk about what we are supposed to talk about, and that is just finishing up with functions. There's one thing about functions that we have not discussed at all. There's one thing about functions that we have not discussed at all. And that is how functions interact with arrays. Now, you've read the book, and it's a bit of an anticlimax, but this is so important, I really want to tell you again and show you. And I really need paper, but it was too much. I'll admit, I was too lazy to bring along my little camera so I can show you on paper. So I'll just have to draw pictures in the air. Array func.java. And we're lazy, so we just do that. This is main. Int x equals my func y. The camera can't record. This little camera can, but then I have to tilt it and focus it. It looks like a homemade porn video, and I don't want to. Not that I mean, from what I've read, I've never seen those. I just read the other day that That's what they look like. Yes. Okay, right, let's find a victim. Lauren, who sits behind you? Well, closest. No, that's not what I meant, but yes, since you volunteered, yes, Marco. No, you're Marco. What would your name be? Greg. Oh, I'm so happy to have a Greg in my class. I love Gregs. Yes, Greg. Happy with this program or not? What do I mean by happy? Will it compile? Forget about that. Is the indentation correct? Okay. Will it compile? Hey, I know. I noticed. I know. Greg doesn't. Shh. It won't. Why? What's wrong? Well, I'll give you a hint. The problem is my func. It's a function, so it starts with static, public static. It's going to send back an int. That's what the first int means, and its name is myfunc. And it takes one parameter, which it calls x. Do you agree? And x is an int. So when I call myfunc, I have to pass an integer. That's hunky-dory. What does myfunc do? Greg? Talk to me like I talk to you. That's not really accurate. It does have an assignment, but it starts with a declaration. Right, excellent. What does the declaration say? What does it tell Java? How could you not? I've been saying this over and over for millions of years. Declaration says, Java, I want a box called x that contains an int. Have I said that? You've been to class before, Greg, surely. Okay, so I've said that many times. That's what a declaration tells Java. I want a new variable box called x that can contain an int. But there's already a box called x that contains an int, isn't there, Greg? Just answer the question. Yes, good. So how is Java going to tell these two boxes apart? When I say x, am I referring to the parameter or the local variable x? The variable x. Greg? I must, because at the moment it's a mistake. I can't have two x's, two boxes, both called x. So this is definitely a big mistake, which is why I put it there. Let's do that. Happy here now, Greg? Some people are not. What's your name, winter guy? Chad. Why are you so bundled up? Okay, that's fine. No problems. Where's the Norwegian? Damn it. I should have asked him to speak Norwegian. I would have been able to tell if it's a real Norwegian or fake Norwegian. Sorry, Chad, what did you want to say? There is something like that, where you can say something like this, .x, but this is not the time and place. No, let's forget about that. Doesn't exist. Nobody heard that? In this context, it won't work at all. That's something entirely different. Yes, Doug, or do people call you Doug or Douglas? Yes.
Didn't those two integer boxes x exist in different scopes?
No, they're both in the scope of my func. All the parameters are almost like variable pre-declarations, and they all live inside func. In fact, let's do a little exercise with you, Douglas, a little experiment, what I like to call my little lab. Let's go back to here. Okie dokie, Douglas. This is a brilliant question for the test, and there will be there won't be questions like this in this test, but in the next test. So what is going to happen? What is it going to print? Well, the question is, what happens here? What is the scope of X? Well, I'd say it's only this function. But when I change X, will this X change, Douglas? No, different scope. But when I pass Y here, the value of Y goes into X. So when I make X 3 less, am I changing Y? No, different scope. I cannot affect. So this box lives only inside my func. When I call my func with Y, I take the value of Y, which is 1, 2, 3, and I put it inside that box X. And now there are two boxes containing 1, 2, 3. One is Y, which is in the scope of main, and one is X, which is in the scope of my func. And those two can't mix, they're separate boxes. Well, how would they mix in any case? But they are separate boxes. What about this, Douglas, if that's even your real name? Happy or not?
I would say no because it can't access the
Y belongs to main, can't see Y. Brilliant. Okay, fine. Now that we've crossed that hurdle, let's get back to what I really wanted to show you. So I want to write this. Actually, I want to write this. Let's find another victim. Douglas, who sits behind you? Kenny. Killian. Julian. What? William. Oh, Guillaume. Bienvenue. You don't speak French, but you have a French name. Isn't that just? Alors, Guillaume, what does this program print? Qu'est-ce que le... Ooh. I don't know computer terms in French. Yes, what does it print? Oh, I want to tell you a story. When I went to France, I had to buy some toothpaste, and I couldn't remember the French word for toothpaste. And I was showing in the pharmacy, and I was going, because dentures, dent, is the French word for teeth. And I was going, gel de dent, crème de dent, pâté de dent, because pâté is paste in French. And it took a long time. Luckily, I spotted it on the shelf. So, dentifrice. Toothpaste. Dentifrice. Oui. It's just a word. No meaning. I mean, it means toothpaste. Guillaume, what will this program produce, print? Will it print 120? I think 120. There are two print statements, though. Okay, excellent. So 120 and 123. Even though I've changed X up here, I've changed X. I've changed it. It is going to print Y does not change. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a little magic. I'm going to repeat this program with arrays, which is the whole point of this lecture. I'll just call them double Y is an int array and new int array. And I'm going to say it contains 1, 2, 3. Am I confused? Can I just write this? No, surely not. I'm sorry, I was programming a lot yesterday, but not Java. Java doesn't allow this, does it? No, it doesn't. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. Okay. Oh, it does. Okay, fine. Um, right. Guillaume, what's your surname? Oh, very French. Forget about the first two print statements. What do the last two print statements print? In fact, let me just fix this. Okay. More confusing for the test. Last two print statements prints, will they print? Okay, just as before. Because it's the same idea as before. Even though we have an array here, when I call my func, I pass it the value yy1, so that's yy0, yy1 is 1, 2, 3. I'm taking the value 1, 2, 3, I'm putting it inside the x box in my func. It makes that box 3 less, so it becomes 120, and it returns that 120, sends back to 120, which I put in xx on this side, and then I print xx, which is 120, and yy1 is still 123. No issue there. Okay, everybody's happy. Now for the magic trick part. I am going to send over the whole array. Y. But I can't send it over to my func, because my func takes one parameter, which is an int. And y is not an int. It's an int array. So I need a second function which will take an int array. And I'm going to call that x. And then just as before, I'm going to take one of the elements and make it 3 less and send back that element. Okay, now Guillaume, who sets... Never mind, I'm tired of Guillaume. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, what's your name? Matt. You've told me before. Oh, you're. Where's the other Matt? No, a different Matt. I need one more Matt. I need a 1T Matt. No, he's not here. Okay, fine. Matt, you'll have to do Matt 6, I'll call you. Output of the last two print line statements.
The last two lines. I'll print in the first one, the triple X will be the...
Yes? Yes, Matt?
And the second one will be 1 today, or mine will be 120. And I'm not sure what the...
Okay, right. So, unlike all the other people who went for 120 and 123, Matt 6 has claimed, I think it was just a random thing to say, that the second one will print 120, and the first, I guess 123 the first one. What do you want, Matt? Sorry?
Another way around, not to go.
Oh, you forgot. Oh, yeah. It's so easy to forget. It's hard to remember, but easy to forget. Yes. Okay. But that's wrong, because I've tricked you. You can't see it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is it better? Okay, fine. I've tricked you, Matt 6, because this function behaves differently because it takes an array. So when I pass this array, x, y, sorry, right there, to my second func, what I'm passing is not the contents of the array. I do not pass the contents of all the boxes to my second func. When I pass an array, do you remember a while ago we talked about arrays and what they really are? And when I declare an array, they are really an empty box, one little box. And when I say this array is equals new int 5, then that box is pointing to a line of boxes, 5 of them, that will contain ints. So when I pass an array to another function, what I'm really passing is that pointer. And when the pointer arrives here in my second func into x, this x is pointing to that same line of boxes. So in this case, we have 3 boxes. Y is 3 boxes. Those 3 boxes are not duplicated when I pass y to my second func. I'm only passing a pointer to these boxes. So there's only one line of 3 boxes, and both y here in main and this x in my second func, they're both now pointing to that y line of boxes. And when I change x1, there's only one line of boxes, so it's the middle x1 that I'm changing, and y is also pointing there, so it can see the change. Do you understand what I'm saying, Math 6? Yes, you nod like, I know students, that nod means no idea. Okay, so I will write on the board, partly because I love doing it, and I'll just take a cell phone pic and send it, put it on the screen, the web. Is that what you call it these days, the web?